Cowboys fall to 5-3, 2-3 on the road, despite the fact that Dak Prescott played a hell of a football game. CeeDee Lamb balling. Tyron Smith coming out the next singer looked really, really good. There's a lot of things positive about what happened in this game, but you came up just a few plays short, which leads us to our first question and conversation of the night. Did yesterday's game leave you more disappointed or more hopeful about the Cowboys after losing to Nick Sirianni and the Philadelphia Eagles?
I was really interested in this, after this game. Also because I don't think I tapped in well enough to like the social media space to see how the layman, the Cowboys nation, the average person in this space felt after that loss. And I know for me personally, and maybe this is just, I don't know, hope springing eternal. I was kind of hopeful after this game, and maybe it's because I already had a little bit of a negative bent. But look, man, the only good team that the Cowboys really went up against, they got pantsed, right? They ain't just get beat; they got embarrassed.
Yeah,
right. And so this Philadelphia Eagles team is supposed to be in that class, right? With the Cowboys, what we're seeing is a team that is obviously good, but only really showed that level of dominance against bad teams, right? And so it was starting to look like, is this a team that is only going to show that level of play against bad teams? And if that's what we're talking about, then ain't no way we're getting to the places that Cowboys fans expect them to be, which is contending deep into the postseason in the NFC. And so this was a measuring stick game. You could call it a litmus test, but Dak Prescott might find that a little bit odd for you to use that verbiage.
You have no idea what that is.
That's right. And they kind of answered the call in some ways. There was definitely more to be desired when it came to the Dallas Dallas Cowboys. Watching basketball while also doing football. This Dallas Cowboys team, but they played fairly well against this Eagles team. They did not allow themselves to just get bullied in this game. And the offense moved. Now, it required a lot of Dak Prescott putting that on his shoulders.
That's right.
But the idea that Dak Prescott was out there putting it on his shoulders, doing it out of structure, and in some ways just saying, if I need to do this way, I will do it this way, was encouraging for me.
Mike McCarthy, are there any moral victories after being so close against Philadelphia yesterday?
I'll say this. I felt last week we kind of turned the corner. I'm a huge believer in you get what you put into it, whether it's life or in a game of football. And I thought our team really hit their stride going into last week's game, played well, did it again this week, came in here expected to play well and win. So as long as we stay after that, there's an ebb and flow in every game, but there's a vibe that gets created when you get into routine and you start building that momentum and so forth. And that's why a win tonight would have been excellent because you get a nice chunk of confidence come out of these wins. But we know who we are. I mean, there's no excuses. We need to make one more play tonight, and we didn't do that.
Did you view it as one more play? Like this was just a one more play type game? Is that
there was at least a few, but I get the point of what he's trying to make. And for me, it leaves me honestly more disappointed.
Okay.
And the reason being is this is yet another game that you had an opportunity against one of the upper echelon teams in the NFL, especially on the road, to be able to make a statement with a win and, more importantly, keep yourself within striking distance in this division. Now, you say, Kevin, the Cowboys are now 2.5 games effectively behind the Eagles, and obviously having lost the first game, the schedule that the Philadelphia Eagles have versus what the Cowboys have over the next 3 weeks would give you an idea that maybe these two teams, when they meet each other again down the road, that things will be fairly tight at the top of that division. But for me, you made enough plays, it felt like, as the course of the game went on, to put yourself in position to win, and you simply couldn't close the deal. I could not figure out for the life of me, while you had 1st and 5 on the Philadelphia Eagles 6-yard line with 27 seconds to go, and you find a way to not get a damn thing. Not a score, nothing, and you lose that football game. After all the gifts that the Philadelphia Eagles gave you to get you into that position and the mental mistakes where there was a false start, obviously the sack that was given up by Terrence Steele, who got repeatedly whooped yesterday.
Yeah, they took his lunch money
completely throughout the course of that game. That left a real bad taste in my mouth about the execution, the poor time management, and offensive execution when you had to have it most in that game. And it really shouldn't have come down to that particular moment anyway. We know about a couple of plays with Schoonmaker and Dak Prescott stepping out of bounds in the 2-point conversion that really kind of turned some of these things around. But for me, ultimately, it left me disappointed just because of where you are and what a win would have done for you going into these stretch of games where you possibly could go 3-0 against the likes of the Giants and others as you get ready for these games.
I do find it interesting. And look, I'm not trying to, put down anyone's opinion. I do value a lot of your opinions fairly highly, but I find it interesting the folks that are going, the regular season doesn't matter and the postseason is what matters. And that game proved that you can't play with the teams that will be in the postseason, because I view that actually in the complete opposite way. Mm-hmm. The fact that you did not finish the game obviously leaves a bad taste, and rightfully so. But if you watched that football game and thought that this Dallas team can't play with the likes of these teams, I don't know what you were watching. This is a team that was playing with this Philadelphia Eagles team. And look, you get a few things that bounce your way and you win that football game.
Yeah,
now, of course,
sure.
You can't depend on those things. And what you would hope is that you were going and taking it, right? As we liken it to the Texas Rangers, right? Mm-hmm. You would hope that you were going and taking it. And so that's a different level. But no, look, after that Niners game, I was starting to look at this team as, can they play with teams on this level? This is confirmation of that. And look, I understand that sounds like loser talk or whatever, but I think that that's the fact of the matter is that, okay, I needed to get some level of proof that they could play on this level, and they can. Now, is game management, late in games, still going to be an issue. Execution, still an issue. Penalties, funny enough, still an issue, right? These are all things that still need to be adjusted. Hey, how about importing a run game of some sort? That'd be nice. Boy. Still an issue. But with all of those issues, you were, like you said, 27 seconds and 7 yards away from winning this football game. And I think that that is some level of proof of concept. I'm not saying you have to be happy about that, but I think that they are a lot closer in caliber to the Philadelphia Eagles, who seem to be some level of the cream of the crop when it comes to the NFC. And so, look, I understand people, that's not going to mean anything to anybody, but where we started with this from week 5, I think that that is an upgrade that makes me feel some level of hopeful with them still having time to somewhere to address this. Do I believe that they will appropriately address that? That's a different conversation, right? Yeah. And that goes into how much do you believe in the coaching ability? How much do you believe in the players actually executing what's necessary over the final stretches of this season? Those are all different questions. But I have a genuine level of hopefulness that at least they could play on the level that they're supposed to be able to play right now.
Yeah, and I guess for me, looking at the Cowboys against this particular version of the Philadelphia Eagles, while yes, they came into the game yesterday with the best record in the NFL, this did not feel like the same Philadelphia Eagle team last year, where honestly, you were in both of those games and you won one of those games last year. You were in the game on the road with Cooper Rush a year ago when this Eagles team theoretically was better last year. So sure. I guess I didn't necessarily need the Cowboys to prove against Philadelphia that they were a team that they could compete with, because we've seen them be able to do it in divisional games like this before.
Fair enough.
My point being, this was a game and an opportunity with all the things that you did well, with Dak Prescott cooking, CeeDee Lamb being able to put together another game the way that he did. Defensively, you were okay. You kept your team in this game for the most part, holding down A.J. Brown, holding down Devontae Smith, in certain aspects. This was a game that you felt like there was a moment, talk about going and taking it. You had a chance to take it in the end and be able to cap off what I thought was a very well-played football game on both sides based off of the way that the game was flowing. The referees be damned, because that was horrendous officiating on both sides, to be honest. But again, I want the Cowboys in these moments to overcome them and start giving confidence to fans that they can't just be in these games, but actually win them. Because what are we going to say when they play Buffalo, when they play Miami?
Buffalo, I'm actually not very high on anymore.
Well,
also Miami, if you want to talk about teams that only beat bad teams.
Exactly. But these are teams that we consider good football teams, and games that we will look at and say, can you beat certain teams of a certain caliber? And you have not been able to do it against San Francisco and now against Philadelphia. When will the corner be turned when you actually win one of these games versus figuring out things that you did well to hopefully build toward that moment? I'm ready for that moment to happen for this team versus it not happening again yesterday.
Yeah, I do find it interesting, though, that you get 2 inches of your tight end being placed in a different place.
Oh, man.
And I think that people view this game entirely different. And that's the cognitive dissonance that I'm feeling in this moment. It's just you get Dak Prescott stepping 3 inches inside of of where he does, and I think people feel significantly different about this game, and that's the thing that's weird to me.
Yeah.
Is that you got this level of play, and it really is just these small things that change the way that we view this. However, like I understand that it is a game of inches, as it felt like everybody in the post game was saying, entirely unironically. How do you feel about this from the 469 who says the bright spot is pressure won't be coming from Dak's blind side, and then pressure to his right won't affect him long term. It's the unknown at left tackle that would make him force things. How do you feel about that, knowing that Tyron Smith played a good game, even if we don't want to talk too much about Terrence Steele getting his lunch money taken by Hassan Reddick over time and time again?
Yeah, I thought Tyler Smith and Tyron Smith were excellent on the left side yesterday. I thought they were your 2 best offensive linemen against the Philadelphia Eagles yesterday. And the questions being on the right side with Terrence Steele particularly. Now, here's the part that makes me upset about Steele. We have known that pass protection not necessarily great, but we've known him to be a really good run blocker. That necessarily hasn't been there this year either.
And that was what made the trade-off worth it, is that you knew that he was going to go kick somebody's keister in the run game.
And that hasn't happened. You say, Kevin, well, he's coming off the torn ACL. He's still working back there. Still time for him to start figuring those things out. Hey, man, we're about to be 10 weeks into the NFL season. Something has got to start flipping up for this run game, because it was non-existent when you needed it inside the 6-yard line.
Even when you didn't need it.
Even when you didn't need it.
It was just non-existent.
It's just non-existent. So there are things coming out of this game that, yes, the Cowboys did extremely well against the Philadelphia Eagles that can give you some confidence down the road that they can eventually overcome those moments and make enough plays to win games. I just need that to happen
already.
Right. We're too deep into this for this still to be a question about can they win in big moments. So that'll be something that as the week goes on that we'll discuss here, we'll look at, because, we won't necessarily get those answers this upcoming week because they're going to beat the Giants into submission this upcoming weekend. So we'll figure that out.
I was going to ask why specifically you say that, but it's because it's the Giants. I get it.
Exactly.